Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and a viewer asked me to say some things about my sleeping pad. So I sleep on basically a modified Thermarest Ridge Rest, which is just a foam pad. And foam pads are fairly thin, which can be an issue with coldness, but I've actually solved that. I'll talk about that in a second here. But it doesn't really solve the issue of it still being kind of a thin pad, and people who are sleeping in beds usually, or who are using fairly lofty or comfortable pads, may have difficulty transitioning to a foam pad, and also older people may have issues too, because it actually is a little bit hard to sleep on the hard ground. Most of us are not used to that, and when you first start to do that, you're gonna notice problems. Okay, you're gonna get parts of your body that are most in contact with the kind of hard ground, even on the mat it's kind of hard, that are getting sore, and also like just from the pressure. And then also your body, the structural part of your body, the bones, the alignment and everything like that, is gonna take a long time to adjust to sleeping on such a flat, solid surface. So basically, let's take a look at the pad so you actually know what I'm talking about. And then I'll talk about how to basically go through that transition process and maybe some alternatives for those of you who it's just not going to work for. So let's take a look. Okay, here's my home basically, sleeping underneath the apricot tree. Got my solar electric bike here, and right behind it is my raincoat, my poncho, set up in a shelter. And then there's my sleeping bag inside of my bivy sack. There's my backpack with a rain cover on it, and here's basically the rest of my stuff up there, and we'll just move this out of the way. So this is the sleeping pad. Now you can see it's a Thermarest, and these normally are about twice the length, so I actually cut this thing in half because your legs don't really need the padding or the insulation. So this generally is not enough to sleep in the winter. You will get very cold, but I made a modification. I've made a video about this. You can look it up on my website. I think if you just search sleeping pad, you'll find it. It's also on the gear page, so you'll find this thing as the modified sleeping pad. So basically what I did is there's the Thermarest Ridge Rest cut in half. Then there is a layer of tarp, which you can't see because it's covered with this tape, which has aluminum reflective facing this way. So when I'm laying on this, my body heat is reflecting back up. That's the main thing here. And then the first version of this, I just had the tarp, but the tarp is kind of fragile. So I put this, what's this called? Gorilla tape, and this is the kind that's meant for basically being outside, and it's a permanent tape. It's meant for basically, you know, it's going to be able to handle the rain and the sun and stuff like that, and it's super sturdy, right? This stuff doesn't even have any holes on it. I've been sleeping on it for probably almost a year now. So anyways, I was going to make a new one of these with basically another layer of insulation underneath, but you know, I've been sleeping down to negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit on this thing, and with no problem coming from the bottom. So I really don't think this thing needs an upgrade. So plus, you know, that would be adding more bulk, and it's such a nice, see, all you have to do is just roll it up like this. It's so compact and light. See, just tiny, and I can either like attach it to the top of the pack, or there's a little pouch in the back I can just slide it in because it's small, it'll fit, or I can roll it up with my poncho and my poncho liner, which makes kind of like the mini sleeping bag, which is actually inside of that thing, and roll it up into a bedroll, and it can actually fit on the back of my utility belt. So for those of you who do want to use this type of option, which does have its advantages, definitely it's lightweight. If you do cut it in half, it's much less bulky. But again, you're going to have to figure out this issue, and basically you have to go through an adaptation process. So it actually took me a long period of time. I do have an inflatable sleeping pad, which I slept on for a long time because I could not stand sleeping on this flat sleeping pad. But I just got so tired of the inflatable pad basically getting a hole in it, right? I live in the Southwest, there's pokey things all over the place, And when you sleep on something every single night, like people who have backpacking gear, inflatable pads, they only go backpacking a few times a year, right? And so they don't really understand how fragile an inflatable pad is, and you won't understand until you sleep on it every night. And then you understand that you're gonna go maybe a week or two before it goes flat, right? Before it gets a hole in it. And then you have to get soapy water and you have to like spray it all over the whole thing so you can find the hole, and then you have to fix the hole with glue. It's a giant pain in the butt. Okay, so I do have a sleeping pad, inflatable sleeping pad, which is super comfortable, and I do recommend them to people, but basically they're perfect. They're expensive. The two downsides are they're expensive and they're going to get holes in them and you're going to have to fix them, and if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to want to do that. It's going to be highly inconvenient, and if it goes flat in the middle of the night, that's not something you're going to be able to pull off. You're not going to be able to fix it. You know, you need to go back to sleep, but you're not going to be able to because it's going to be flat and it's going to be cold. Okay, and luckily they do generally deflate when they have a hole in them, so you can sleep on them a few hours and blow them up, but it's just annoying. So anyways, if you want to get used to this, you just have to sleep on it, right? And it's going to take you months before it's actually a comfortable thing. Now, I sleep on this thing every night. I've been sleeping on that flat pad for over a year and a half at this point. And well, maybe not that long, but a pretty long time. And it's completely comfortable for me, right? I don't even long for a bed. I don't long for my inflatable pad. So you do get used to it after a while. I don't know why you no longer get the sores from the pressure. You know, it doesn't make sense to me that that would be something you would adapt to necessarily, but like the structural stuff, your body, the bones, your joints and stuff like that, getting used to sleeping on a very firm surface, that does make more sense to me, and that's also happened as well. So basically, if you want to rely on this, you just got to do it and go through the pain, and it might take months. Or the alternative is to get an inflatable sleeping pad, but keep in mind, it's going to go flat if you live in a place that has anything pokey around you. And in my mind, it's just not worth it, but they are crazy comfortable. So there's I don't remember what they are. There's a Ridge Rest that's like the Neo Air or something like that. That's a nice one. And then I have one from Exped, E-X-P-E-D. I don't remember the name of the actual one, but it's really nice, and it comes with a pad. It comes with a bag. It's like a stuff sack, but it's big enough you can hold it in a way so that it fills with air, and then you shut it, and then you can push all the air into the pad, and that way you're not breathing cold, moisturized air into the pad, which is something you have to do with other pads, and that'll eventually lead to a bunch of water being inside the pad and it leading to mold, which I have had happen before, which is rough because these things are super expensive. Like I said, I got mold on one that was like $300. So anyways, yeah, if you're going to get an inflatable pad, I definitely recommend the Exped. Sorry, I don't remember the actual one that I got, but if you look at Exped, just look for one of the orange inflatable sleeping pads, and that's probably the one you're looking for. And I think they make them big enough for 2 people to sleep on. So if I ever get a girlfriend, I don't know if a girl's ever going to come and live out here like this, but you know, if that ever does happen, we can get a sleeping pad that we can both sleep on, but we'll probably have to fix it all the time. So anyways, that's the answer to the question. How do I deal with sleeping on a foam pad? You just get used to it after a while. So hope that's useful. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider sharing it. If you'd like to help me out in a more substantial way, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/gift. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether publicly or privately, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/one-on-one. Thanks again for watching.